Now, this is the level that always made me nervous as a kid, because this, well, it makes me nervous even now, because it's a stealth level. Fortunately, it's probably one of the least offensive of stealth in Zelda. Obviously, like, as you'll learn later, thanks to Shadow Link, the spotlights are attracted to noise, like the noise of jars breaking. So they obviously have plenty of jars scattered around to tempt you to break them and get the spotlight on you. I never did actually get captured by the spotlight. And what happens when you get captured is you get thrown in a jail that you break out of by using a boomerang. Because the boomerang is just conveniently placed there right for you to get it. So that was the most insultingly easy jailbreak ever. But I never showed it off. I was thinking I would be able to show it off at the end of this level because I just barely had enough force gems to beat it. But obviously I was able to beat it. I wonder how many times I said obviously in this LP. The thing about, see, like this is where it introduces to you the idea that breaking the jars will send the spotlights to them. But the thing is, you chances are by the time you got to that point, you've already broken jars and seen that happen. So it's a little late for that. I like the music that plays in the outside section. Like, there's something about hearing the Dark World music play outside in the Light World. Just feels really charming. Like, I really like the instrumentation of it. Like, that's probably how they intended it to sound like in the Super Nintendo version. Obviously, like, lots of narrow passageways, so it's difficult to dodge the anti-fairies. You gotta be careful. Just take it slow. Another block that's not intuitive that you have to go all the way around to push it there. Well, actually it is, because you just have to push onto the darker part of the floor. For once they make it obvious. But I think now is a good time to start talking about some more multiplayer content. Something you get cheated out of if you played in the single player is the Tingle Tower. Like, when you progress through the world, you unlock a Tingle Tower for each one, and this allows you to play some mini games with your friends. Bucking Bronto is one where you race your friends on a horse, which sounds pretty fun because I like the horse. Cuckoo Wranglers is obvious, you just throw cuckoos into the fence thing. There's Hammer Tag, there's Monster Hunting, which is as boring as it sounds. You can play catch with the large woman. That was creative. And there's Mole Melee that has exploding moles to avoid hitting, as well as moles that you should hit. I mean, I hope that the exploding moles look different. It's annoying that sometimes we hit an ice switch in this room and nothing actually happens. Like, I guess it lights up a torch, but that's about it. And as you'll see here, the invisible floor is still tangible just because it doesn't have to be visible for you to walk on it, which is good. So that was a pretty creative way of taking advantage of the ice switches. And for once, you get to take advantage of the lighting torches with the arrows concept again. For some reason, it forgot that I had to do this again, because it didn't work the last time. Here's a multiplayer difference. Like this is another section that differs in multiplayer. There are 4 lanterns near the end of Hyrule Castle, and at least 2 links will need them. Get the lanterns and go to the unlit torches, and use the lantern to strike a flame. You have to light all the torches at once to open the door, which is the tricky part. It's kind of like this is easily the section where it's the hardest to avoid the spotlights. You have to really take it slow here. I guess the trick you could use is throwing a jar so that the spotlights go to where the jar is thrown and not at you. So that's interesting. Like, for once they have distraction techniques for the stealth in Zelda. And those torches are weird because they don't really stay lit at all. And well, it does seem strange that you're going through Hyrule Castle again. Especially since I'm thinking, well, why didn't we go through this the last time we came through Hyrule Castle? What, did we miss something? I guess we did. We couldn't have just gone through this place last time? But at the very least, they make it very different from the last time you went through it. Because of the self thing. And the darkness. And this boss, which has a ghost in Hyrule Castle. I mean, at least it made sense for the graveyard, but here it just seems really arbitrary. It works a lot differently from the last boss, even though it has the 4 torches. Because this time you have to light all of the torches to get him vulnerable. It's not like he has to run into light from one torch and gets vulnerable there. Instead, he gets vulnerable, and then he sucks you in, and now you have to attack the guy that just ran away from you the last time you beat a boss. What is this thing supposed to be? I mean, it looks like Tingle. But yeah, Tingle Tower has a harder monster hunting. And it has a bonus course, which is an extra dungeon that's a race for the Force Gems. It has living Force Gem monsters, giant steel balls that chase you, cannons, and exploding Force Gems. Unfortunately, it's only got one level design rather than different level design for each Tingle Tower. Because that would have been too cool. But that definitely sounds like the Tingle Tower minigame I'd like to play the most. But sadly, I'll never be able to play any of those. Like, you can't even play them in single player, and I really don't. Well, I guess it wouldn't. There wouldn't really be a point to it because you wouldn't be competing with anyone. But they could at least have an AI take control of the other links, and then you could just compete against those. I mean, even in Harvest Moon Magical Melody, they have an option where you can practice the mini-games for like the festivals and stuff on the title screen. Because they have a mini-games mode for that. And that lets you play in multiplayer. And in the actual, like, and when you go to the festivals, it's the AI that competes against you. But they don't do that here for some reason. So the Tingle Tower is just completely locked out of the single player experience. So every Shadow Battle stage has a variety of ways to deal damage using environmental hazards, which is much more interesting than just having the links wail at each other and that's it. The field has trapdoors, enraged birds, and explosives. You can dash into one of the trees to send out bees to the closest player. I'll rant about bees later. Bombs will surround the item platform when you activate the crystal switch in the house. They won't explode right away. You can throw a bomb flower through the doorway at someone outside. You can attack the cuckoos in the cave to summon a swarm outside. You can charge into any side of the house to make 3 soldiers appear inside. And the crystal switch inside the cave causes 4 monsters to appear outside, including an electrified one. There's a star switch under a bush next to the house, and it'll open a trapdoor in front of the house. And all the dark versions of the stages are pitch black, except for a small ball of light for each link, which doesn't sound very fun. The only other difference in the first area is that the trapdoor switch is a few feet to the north. It was interesting that she mentioned a forest of light. Like, the next forest area wasn't always a place of darkness. So that's interesting, because you're never really going to go through a forest of light in Zelda. Which is weird, because you'd think, like, you'd at least see one forest that was good, but instead it's always, like, lost woods. And surprisingly, even though this place is called the Lost Woods, well, I do get lost in it sometimes. Like, there was some editing I had to do, but surprisingly, they do a good job of... God, I hate this enemy. It's so cheaply placed and annoying. But yeah, they do a surprisingly good job of making every screen look unique. Like, every screen has some sort of a unique gimmick to it. These Wallmasters will pull you into the Dark World where there's anti-fairies. But there's nothing really in the Dark World, so there's really no point. Like, they are kind of intimidating though, but nothing as bad as the ones in Wind Waker, which they resemble. And because it's the Lost Woods, it has some sort of non-linear level design, so it's easy to go to the places that you shouldn't go to, like, first. But fortunately, it does have the common sense to make it so that the first area that you need to go to is the closest to the beginning of the level, and so on and so forth. Like, eventually you do return to a part of the level that's close to the beginning, but before that, you're going to the leftmost part. It's it's kind of annoying how quickly they dismiss Beatty. Like this is a Four Swords game, and Beatty was the main villain of the Four Swords trilogy, and yet they so quickly dismiss him, and suddenly the plot is just hijacked by Ganon, which is the entire reason why this game takes place on the Twilight Princess timeline to begin with, instead of just being a proper sequel to Four Swords. Something I forgot to mention in part 1 is that the intro tells you that Beatty kidnapped a bunch of girls, and it's not talking about the maidens that he captured either. But, well, maybe he did do that in Four Swords, but it was never really made clear. You saved great fairies in that game. Like, the story was pretty light, which is good for a multiplayer game. Nobody really cares about that. And these guys are annoying. Their fire keeps on... Like, the fire hurts you and it just keeps on existing until you... Like, they're kind of annoying. But yeah, every screen is just enough unique that it's not too easy to get lost, even in the middle sections. Like, at one point there's a sign by Tingle that just says up woods, down woods, left woods, and right woods. Like, it's totally useless. But even those wood sections are a little bit differentiated from each other in what they have in them. Like, some sections have stumps and some don't, and those stumps will block your way until you are able to burn them. And the nice thing is that they keep the stumps burnt. Like, when you make a screen transition, they don't respawn them, which is great because you're not always going to have the lamp that you're just about to get here. So it's good to keep them burnt so that you can actually progress once you don't have it anymore. Later on, I'm going to... Oh yeah, I do a lot of fast forwarding in this because it's easy to get lost in this level, and so it's better to show how I get to the areas that I get to. I hate the bees in this game. Here, you attack, and it causes them to back away from you for a few seconds, but it doesn't actually kill them. Like, I don't think you can kill them. I mean, the bomb flowers give off the impression that you can kill them with the bombs, but like, the explosions are so tiny that it doesn't really help. They're much better in other games where you could just attack them. And you have the thing where the Deku Scrubs were revived because Ganon came back. And they adore Ganon, which makes sense considering that they're revived because of him. Like, they're sort of an in-between between monsters and people because they're clearly able to talk. So, they're people, but they're monsters because they're on Ganon's side, and for some reason they're only able to sprout back out when Ganon's around. Though that's kind of contradictory because in Minish Cap you have the Deku Sprouts out without Ganon, and before the monster chest is even opened. So are they monsters or not? But yeah, I can't help but kind of root for these guys, even though they are racist against people who aren't Deku Scrubs. Like, they call Link worthless later on this level. But, like, they at least let him, like, they at least don't treat him like dirt. Even though Ganon told them, they warned him, like, Ganon warned the Deku Scrubs to guard against heroes, but he didn't tell them what Link looked like for some reason. So the Deku Scrubs just dismiss Link as a kid. And so they don't really take him seriously or know who he is. Which is really Ganon's fault for not giving him a picture or something. Like, he couldn't summon it with his magic or anything, really. It's kind of good that you have to throw bushes at these guys to defeat them, because it adds variety to the combat, rather than you just doing the same thing over and over again. You know, when you beat a level, you lose everything you got. You lose your items, you lose the heart containers, you lose you lose the defense bracelet, everything. It's really game logic-y. I mean, if you got to keep everything, then the game would be even easier than it already is with you having a million different force fairies. I mean, already, it doesn't really matter if you get a game over at all, because, well, first off, you're never gonna game over because you are never gonna run out of force fairies. It's been a long time since I've tried to play multiplayer with myself using 2 GBAs, but I seem to remember that when you die, like when one player dies, they fall over for a few seconds, and then they just automatically get up. But they also lose a whole bunch of money. But so it requires one Link to lift him up to make him wake up faster, and you can also move around for a little bit while you're lying down, which is pointless. And all 4 Links at once have to die for you to lose force fairies. I think that's how it works. Which would make the fact that you get up when you die very arbitrary then. Because how are you waking up then? But that reminds me that it's weird, when you get hit normally, you lose force gems. Which is really just annoying because it causes you to get distracted trying to get your force gems back, and then you might get hit again in the process. I love that you can attack the enemies with other Links, by the way. But in the GBA areas, getting hurt doesn't rob you of force gems. I wish they'd just pick one and stick with it. And even the Deku Scrubs hate Shadow Link. Which makes sense, since he's even mean to them, when you think that Ganon would program the Shadow Links to not be mean to his own underlings. But whatever, Ganon's never been established as being particularly smart. I guess we're supposed to believe that he makes smart evil plans, but he does think just for the evils, so. But yeah, I think it's around this time when I started to get a little lost. And here's the part of the level that I find the most memorable from my childhood. It's where you're supposed to gather a bunch of items and give one item each to the Deku Scrub. I don't know why I have 2 water jars, since I could have sworn that I would have wanted to collect one of each jar. But anyways, the problem I have here is that I'm really lucky that I was able to read what he said in time, because I was just mashing A through the text. I hope he can repeat himself. But yeah, he asked for a sign, a bomb, and an oil jar. So this proves that they randomize what he asked for, because sometimes he can ask for a bush. And I was expecting him to ask for something else. Now I get an oil jar here, and I end up losing it because I left the screen as just one Link, which you're fortunately allowed to do, because it'd be really annoying if you had to press L and gather all the Links every time you want to make a screen transition. But yeah, I had to collect the oil jar again because it disappeared because I left the screen without all of the Links for some reason. That was dumb. But yeah, and this is also dumb because the bomb is literally just about to explode, but then you hand it to him, and rather than it exploding in his face, I guess he just turns it off somehow, and he's fine. And if the Deku Scrubs have access to power bracelets, to letting them lift trees, you'd think that they would be a lot more of a threat. But I guess they gave us, random outsiders, the only power bracelet in the entire Deku Scrub colony. They also mentioned that they're digging a tunnel to escape the Lost Woods, but why would they need to dig a tunnel to escape a forest? I mean, I guess I remember the world map showing the Lost Woods to be on top of a mountain, so maybe that's the only way that they think they can escape the woods. You think they'd be able to just walk around enough and they would escape the woods though? Plus, they're Deku Scrubs. Majora's Mask showed them to be pretty pathetic. What would they even do with an army of Deku Scrubs? And, like, obviously, the music playing here is a remix of the Skull Woods theme from Link to the Past. So it sounds pretty nice with GameCube instruments. It's always kind of annoying to try to collect all the Force Gems when you have rocks in your way. I mean, it's kind of fine for bushes, but for rocks you have to slow down and pick them up and then throw them, and it takes longer. And it's even worse when you fall into holes and they all disappear. I don't know why they program money and stuff to disappear after a while. I mean, it's not like you're going to be on the screen for that long, and you constantly see a huge amount of stuff on the screen at once. Like, you see a huge amount of Force Gems at once, and it doesn't cause slowdown at all. So, why would they need to have them disappear after a while? Because that's the only explanation I can think of for making stuff disappear after a while, is that if there's a whole bunch of them on the screen at once, it would cause slowdown. Like, that's probably why it happens in Harvest Moon Magical Melody. But in this game, they constantly make a point of showing off the GameCube technology, like in Pikmin, by having a huge amount of enemies and stuff on the screen at once. And there's no slowdown whatsoever. The reason this boss sucks is because you're inclined to constantly be aiming the bow and charging it up and moving from side to side. But the problem is that you can't block his fireballs while you're doing that, so you just constantly get hit. Like being able to do that with the bow, move side to side while aiming it, was something that Zelda 1 didn't have. But now I see that it wouldn't have made a difference because you would have just gotten hurt because you weren't facing the fireballs to block them. And this is the point where it reminded me that, see, I went to this place earlier with the lamp and all she did was heal me. There are plenty of items that just simply don't have upgrades programmed for them, which really feels like a missed opportunity. Like, if you got creative enough, I'm sure you could make an upgrade for every item. Not all of them would be worth much. Like, the lamp that gets upgraded. It could have a larger ball of light around each of the links, which would only bring up the question of why it wasn't that large to begin with. Or maybe it could light, like, giant torches. But instead, even if you use an action replay to hack having an upgraded item, because you can do that for every item, it's not going to behave any differently than a normal item, even though it says level 2 on it. Which is pretty disappointing, especially since you can only hack one level 2 item, like, at a time. So, that was a level. Kind of a tedious one. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's not requiring a guide of you.